So we are going to head to our next presentation, which will be by Ragul Senthil, who is affiliated with Ohio State University. And Ragul will be presenting about a sustainable approach to collecting and organizing post-consumer textile waste in Ohio, and looking at some problems and influencing factors. So I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to Ragul.
Good morning. Am I audible to everyone? Yeah.
Yes, you're great.
Yeah. So my name is Ragul Senthil, and I'm a grad student at Ohio State University. Before joining Ohio State University, I've been working as a home textile designer come merchandiser for retail and the export houses for 4 years. I've been into all kind of like from designing from fiber to the end product I've been working on. So that's how my research interest has been generated, like more towards the post-consumer textile waste and also home comfort products, so sustainability in home comfort products. And that's the space I work on currently. And moving to, there is some technical issues. Yeah. Moving towards my study is on sustainable approach to collect and organize post-consumer textile waste in Ohio, the problems and influencing factors. At this moment, I would like to thank my professor, Dr. Julia, and my advisor, Dr. Tasha, for supporting me. And I would like to start with a brief introduction because a lot of new people are there over here. So I just give a short intro about this area. Textile and fashions are the fastest growing and highest polluting industries in the world, and it around 8 to 10% of the global carbon emission is due to this textile and fashion industries, and the world consumes about 80 billion new pieces of clothing per year, which is, if you compare with the last 2 decades, which is 400% higher than what we consume at this point. And also nearly 10% of the microplastics are dispersed in the ocean every year of tear of textiles. And of the 100 billion produced garments, 92 billion always ends up in a landfill. So that's the area why I started to work on, because I worked in the home textile industry. People in the apparel looks into the apparel is a big sector, but home textile also does the huge fact. And looking into the fact of USA market, home textile is the, if it's a global consumption, US alone consumes almost 36% of the global manufacturing, which is a big to be the big scale, and the industry is fastly growing, which is almost $300 billion industry currently at this point. That's why I started to work on this area. And looking into the background, textile waste, 92 million tons of textile waste are produced each year globally, and and it is expected to rise to 134 million tons. And UK and US, the major time, most of the time, they wear the garments only 7 to 10 times. And as per the study with DOI, which you have done already earlier, Dr. Julia, the team which you have done, it's the same. It's like how every year, well, looking to the Florida itself, they are disposing 100 pounds of textile waste each year. And also textile waste can be designed into 2 types: pre-consumer waste and post-consumer waste. Most of the time, pre-consumer waste is recycled or refibered and use it, but post-consumer waste just ends up in landfill most of the time. And looking into the US market, only 15, US throws away 15 million tons of clothing per year. Only 12% of the apparel textile waste is recycled globally. And the lifespan of cloth is every cloth which is manufactured is at least 2 to 10 years. And most of the time, as it ends in landfill, there's a 66% and 19% goes to combustion, and 15% goes to recycling. And you can see in this graph, throughout the time, there is a huge increase. In 1960, it was just almost 2 million, but now it is almost 10 million ends in landfill, and combustion and recycling. Also, the rate is little low in comparison to the others. Looking at the recycling market, textiles are 100% recycled. We live in the country which is like the global renowned leader in everything, but looking into the perspective of recycling, it is just 15%. And Here I said about consumption global home textile consumption is 24% at this point. But the thing is, the recycled fiber in apparel are used in home textile area. If you see in the market at this point, you will see there are a lot of recycle yarns, recycle fiber. Those are the products, those are the fibers which we taken from the apparel and we use it in the home textile market. That's why you see the cheaper products as recycled fiber or sustainable cotton, which you see all the products are just comes from this area. And nearly 85% of the ghost of the textiles ends in landfills are synthetic, and more effort is always taken to recycle the pre-consumer waste, as the constituent materials are very less and post-consumer waste are very complicated to recycle. So it has not taken much effort in it with all the countries and the companies. Looking into the consumer apparel disposal in UK and USA, selling selling items to the second-hand clothes or charities are the most preferred one, and donating to the developing countries are the second option, and processing them to the back into the fiber is the third, or redesigning is the last preferred options used. My research is on what are the sustainable methods of collecting and organizing the post-consumer textile waste is done in the state of Ohio, and what are the problems faced in collecting and recycling the textile waste. And third was, how do the socioeconomic factor and demographic influence the post-consumer textile waste generation in the state of Ohio? So looking at the data method, I start right now I'm working on it. It's ongoing study. So first, the information estimate amount of post-consumer textile waste generated and recycled for the last 5 years. Collecting the data through Ohio EPA and SWACO. SWACO is a central, it's a state, it's an organization by the state which maintains the data of textile waste also, and all the other waste. It includes textile waste also. And second, by analyzing the demographic and socioeconomic status of the counties and looking into the per capita income by availing the existing data from Census Bureau. And third is studying the retailing factors such as number of textile brand outlets and thrift stores and clothing stores and departmental stores present in the counties. And primary data is I'm interviewing with the 3 Ohio-based major textile recycling companies, with the production managers and the problems, to collect the details about the problems they faced in collecting the collecting the cloths, and what are the difficulties they are facing in sorting out those things. And also the data we collected by interviewing and giving a questionnaires to 3 waste collection companies by conducting interviews with the waste segregation workers involved in this process. And the third phase of the data is online questionnaires are sent to the different social media platforms and survey websites, and questionnaires issued in thrift stores and resale stores to collect and gather the consumer data about their preference in disposing the textile waste. So at this point, thus my initial findings are as same like Florida, what you're done, same over here. I'm working with one of the startup thrift. We put up the bins in the different locations of this city, and as the mainly the wealthier driven communities disposes a huge amount of textile waste, and those are most of the time brand new clothes. Like mainly, it's like not, sometimes they did not even remove the tags. That's how new it is coming to the product line. And most of the time the products, the brands, I cannot say the brand names, but all the brands which they dispose is also like higher brands which has a huge market, renowned names. And the amount of post-consumer waste is directly related to correlated to the financial status of the people. And also in metropolitan regions, there is a more significant generation of textile waste and recycling ideas. They have the idea what can be done. They try to give it. They are in search of thrift stores or in the donation stores. And cities in a county with having a number of clothing retail stores tend to produce more textile waste than the other stores, other places. And my expected results of study focuses on Ohio. They expect to find and identify the problems in collecting and separating goods, because all the studies in the previous says like it doesn't connect with the problems faced by the collecting and recycling companies. So my study tried to focus with this textile collecting, like waste collecting companies and recycling and garbage recycling garbage collecting companies, because at this moment we found that there is a no standardized method for disposal of textile throughout the state. either people goes to donation or just they dispose in the garbage with the general all the goods. So workers are facing very difficult to segregate it, and most of the time, even if it is good, as it is disposed with the multiple other waste, it is difficult for them to segregate, and it has a lot of hygiene issues. So through this interviews and data, we find a gap in the disposable methods to identify the means for innovation, and limited information is available in the post-consumer textile waste in Ohio concerning the methods of disposal. We aim to design a structure to address these issues. And yeah, these are my citations. And any questions?
Wow, thank you so much for that presentation. It was really exciting, I think, for several of us in the room to hear it, because this has been a topic that we've talked a lot about and thought a lot about as a team. And it was really exciting to see that you had some really great data and were able to look at some different aspects of this that we know we weren't able to when we looked at this in Florida. So this is really great work and a really good contribution. So thank you so much for sharing this. We have a few minutes for questions, so I will just take a pause here, and feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand if you have any questions. Okay, it looks like Evan has a question.
Yeah, so I know you were looking at, I guess, some of the obstacles a little bit that were here involved in increasing the amount of textiles that are being recycled instead of going to landfills. I know you mentioned that you talked to some like local industries maybe about what they saw problems of recycling being. Do you have plans to look more at social factors that may impact the choice for a community to recycle? Because I think, as DL said, we also looked a little bit about how maybe community income and stuff like that affects recycling choices. So is that something you plan to look at or have looked at, or do you have any insight into that possibility?
Yeah, we spoke with few companies here. They plan to in the future. They are trying to, because it's a big setup to do it, so they are a little lagging at this point. But they're planning to set up and separate bins to in the bigger counties where the crowd is, where they are getting more of textile waste. They're planning to put a separate bins to collect the textile products waste, because it is most of the time they dispose it with the normal everything. So it is very difficult for the workers to segregate it at this point. So at this point, as the companies which we saw are trying to put it in the separate bins area. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Evan, for that question. Does anyone else have any other questions? I think we have time for maybe one or two other questions. I can ask one. I think something that I was thinking about that just came up in your response to that first question is that there seem to be big differences in textile waste generation between urban and rural areas. And I was just wondering if you had any thoughts about, I feel like a lot of the solutions that are being discussed are kind of more tailored for urban areas, which like kind of makes sense because a lot of the waste is being generated there. But did anything like come up in your research or literature review about like textile waste in rural areas and maybe ways for handling it in communities where maybe some of these like larger collection projects wouldn't work as well?
And most of the time, the rural areas, they try to use it they try to use the textile waste for the some other, like they used to do clean the household tracks. They use it as tracks. But in cities, it doesn't happen that way. So they try to purchase the same, like they are not replacing the product with the purpose. They are trying to buy the new products. So there is no significant changes, like significantly this urban consuming more in comparison with rural.
Great, thank you so much. I think we only have about a minute left, so before we move on, does anyone have a final question they want to ask? So maybe I'll end it with just a quick question. Kind of what are your next steps for your research in terms of like what do you think the next research question kind of after this study would be?
Yeah, I'm trying to focus more on home textile products than the apparel, because apparel, at least we have the standard methods to dispose, like standard what you say, standard way people like collecting it or you donating it, or try to give it to their friends or charities. But looking to home textile products, most of the time it ends in landfill. People are not using it because some concerns with hygiene and safeties. So I'm looking more into the home textile area of the post-consumer textile waste than the apparel.
Great, that's a really exciting and an interesting direction. And I think one that we don't hear talked about as frequently. So that's it's a really, really great idea. So we're out of time for Q&A, but thank you so much for this really interesting and kind of presentation that gave me a lot to think about. And similar with our last presentation, we should definitely connect after this event. And I think we have a lot of overlaps between our research interests as a lab and the work you're doing. So thank you so much for being here. And I see everyone's kind of giving you a virtual round of applause. So great job.
Thank you.
So we're going to move to our last research presentation now. Just a reminder that we have the feedback form if you have any additional questions or things that you want to kind of ask or discuss. And I mentioned this earlier, but we also will be having a virtual optional mixer at the end of the event, and not all of our presenters are able to stay for it, but those that are, that will be a space where you are welcome to join, and we can really kind of continue the conversation in a more informal way.